And we are continuing with the 10th chapter of Oversea Under Stone. The kids have just found a hole up at Kamar Head in an area called the Graveyard. They don't really know how to tell how deep it is. Simon has just emptied his pockets and not found anything of use, so it seems we will continue from there. Well, he said, we can have a toffee each anyway. He handed them round solemnly. The toffees were slightly furry at the edges where the cellophane had come loose, but tasted none the worse for that. Simon gave a fourth to Rufus, who made a few grimacing attempts to chew it and then swallowed it whole. What a waste, Barney said. He emptied his own pockets in a shower of sand. A green glass marble with an orange pip in the middle, a small white pebble, a sixpence, and 4 farthings, a headless lead soldier, a handkerchief miraculously much cleaner than Simon's, and a thick piece of wire curved round at both ends. "What do you carry that around for?" demanded Jane. "Well, you never know," Barney said vaguely. "It might come in useful. Come on, let's have a look at yours." "Nothing in them," Jane said a trifle smugly. She pulled both pockets of her jeans out. "Well, you brought your duffel coat," said Simon. He crossed the rocks, climbed down the grass to the headland where they had been standing, and brought the jacket back. "Here we are, 1 handkerchief, 2 hair grips, just like a girl, 2 pencils, a box of matches. Whatever do you want those for? Like Barney, they might come in useful. A lot more useful than that old bit of wire, anyway." Simon felt in the other pocket. "Money, a button. What's this?" He brought out a spool of cotton. "Now that's an idea. Pretty daft thing to carry about, but it might help us find how deep the hole is." "I'd forgotten I had that," Jane said. "All right, you win. I carry junk around too, but you must admit it's sensible junk." She took the cotton reel from him. "It says there's 100 yards of cotton in this. Well, no hole could be that deep, surely." "I wouldn't be surprised with this one," Simon said. "Tie something to the cotton and lower it down." "Have to be something pretty light," Barney said, "or it'll break." Jane unwound a length of cotton and pulled on it. "Oh, I don't know. It's pretty strong. Here. I know. Give me a bit of the wire." Barney looked at her doubtfully, but handed it over. Jane tied one end of the cotton to the curved end. "There. Now we just lower away and wait till it hits bottom." "I know a better way." Simon took the reel back and put one of Jane's pencils through the hole in the middle. It was just long enough to protrude at either side. "See, you hold on to both ends of the pencil, and the reel unwinds of its own accord, because of the weight. Like playing a fish." "Let me do it." Jane knelt down beside the hole and dropped the wire into its dark mouth. The cotton reel spun around as the thread disappeared, and they held their breath. Then suddenly the reel slowed, turned wearily, and came to a halt. Just as they were thinking that the wire had reached firm ground, they saw the end of the cotton blowing loose. "Bother!" said Jane in disappointment. "It's broken." She looked down into the blackness in a vain attempt to see where the cotton had gone. Simon took the reel from her and examined it. "Half the cotton gone, anyway, and it still hadn't hit anything. That means the hole must be at least 50 yards deep. That's 150 feet. Good grief!" He tapped Jane on the shoulder. "Come on, Dopey, you won't see anything down there." Jane flapped her hands at him, still bending over the hole. "Shut up!" They waited patiently until she straightened herself right in the face. "I can hear the sea," she said, blinking in the sunlight. "Of course you can hear the sea. So can I. It's just over the edge of the headland." "No, I mean you can hear it down there." Simon looked at her, tapped his head and sighed, but Barney lay down close to the hole and put his head inside. "She's right, you know," he said eagerly, looking up. "Come and put your ear down here." Said Simon skeptically, and lay down beside him. They heard, very faintly, coming up from the depths of the hole, a hollow booming sound. It faded and then rose again, slow and regular. "Is that the sea?" "Of course it is," Jane said. "That deep gorging sort of noise, don't you recognize? That deep gonging sort of noise, don't you recognize it? The sort of noise waves make when they wash into a cave. And think what it means. The hole must go all the way down, through the cliff to the sea, and there must be an entrance down there. And that's where the Cornishman hid the Grail." But it can't go all the way," Simon said slowly, rubbing his ear. Couldn't this be vibration or something coming through from the edges of the rocks down below? Well, I ask you, does it sound like it? No, Simon admitted. It doesn't, only how could anyone have made such a narrow little hole so deep? Goodness knows, but he did, didn't he? Perhaps the little shell we found was thrown up through it somehow. Then if the Grail is down there, we'll have to get at it from the entrance where the sea comes in. There must be a cave. I wonder if we can climb round from the harbour. Listen! Barney suddenly scrambled to his feet and stood upright, his head cocked. I hear something, like an engine. Simon and Jane stood up and listened to the distant waves and the wind. They could hear seagulls crying, the plaintive yelping calls blown gustily toward them from below, and then the noise Barney had heard, the low thrumming of an engine from the direction of the harbour. It was Simon who caught sight of the long white bow of a yacht moving round the curve of Kamar Head. He crouched low. Get down, quick, he said hoarsely. It's them. It's the Lady Mary. Barney and Jane dropped to the ground beside him. They can't see us if we keep behind the rocks, Simon said quietly. Don't move anyone until they've gone out of sight. I've got a gap here, Barney whispered. I can just see them through the rocks. Mr. Withers is on deck and his sister with him. Their skipper's not there. He must be in the cockpit. They're looking this way, not up here. They seem to be looking at the cliffs. Mr. Withers has got binoculars. Now he's put them down, and he's turned to his sister to say something. I can't see the expression on his face. They aren't near enough. I wish they'd come closer in. Oh! Jane swallowed. Suppose there is a cave down there where the Grail is and they see it. The idea was paralyzing, and they lay rigid, their minds wishing the boat away. The noise of the Lady Mary's engine grew louder, passing the end of the headland close below them. What are they doing? Simon hissed urgently. I can't see. There's a rock in the way now. Barney wriggled with frustration. The noise of the engine filled the air, but it did not stop. As they listened, breathless, it grew gradually less, moving away from across the sea. I can see them now. There's another gap. He's still looking at the coast through the binoculars. I don't think he's seen anything. It looks as if he's still hunting. Now they've gone round the corner. Barney rolled over and sat up. If they are looking for a cave, how did they know? They can't have known. They haven't seen the map, Jane said in anguish. They couldn't possibly. I mean, even if the vicar was in league with them, and they knew about the outline I drew in the guidebook, it hasn't got any sort of clue. I didn't put any of the clue marks in. But if they didn't know where to look, why are they looking in the right place? I think, Simon said reassuringly, it's just part of their routine. I mean, they don't know where to look, so they look everywhere. Great Uncle Mary said something like that the very first day we talked. It's just the way they searched the house, all at random, without any sort of plan. Perhaps they've thought any of the idea of a cave vaguely, and are scouring the whole coast in case they find one. Not just this part, but all the way up and down. They don't know there is one. Well, we do. If it's there, why didn't they see it? Perhaps they did, Barney said gloomily. Oh no, they can't have done. They'd have stopped at any rate. They wouldn't have gone on looking like what you said they were. You did say that, didn't you? Jane looked at him nervously. Oh, yes. Old Withers was still squinting hard through his glasses when they went out of sight. Well then. There's one other thing it might be, Simon said reluctantly. He paused. What? We heard the sea, so the mouth of the cave might be covered, might be underwater. That could be why they didn't see it. There are lots of underwater caves in Cornwall. I remembered reading about them somewhere. It might not have been like that when our Cornishman hid the Grail, but perhaps the land sunk a bit 900 years. In 900 years. Well, that's good, Barney said. They'd never be able to find it then. Simon looked at him and raised his eyebrows. Nor should we, Barney stared. Oh, surely we could. We could dive. You can dive pretty well. We wouldn't have a chance. I can dive, but I'm not a fish. I suppose the whole thing would be full of water, Jane said slowly, and the Grail would be under the sea and all eaten away like wrecks of ships. Covered in barnacles, said Simon. It can't be. It mustn't be. He said over sea, and it must be over the sea. We shall just have to find out. Great Uncle Mary will know. They stared at one another in consternation. Gummery! I'd forgotten all about him. Where is he? We've been up here for ages. He must have woken up hours ago. Barney, what exactly did you ask Mrs. Polk to tell him? I said to say we'd gone for a walk with Rufus. He'd know where. She looked at me a bit funny, but she said she'd give him the message. I tried to make it sound like a game, said Barney, very serious. I do hope nothing's happened to him, Jane said anxiously. Don't worry, I expect he's still snoring, Simon said. He looked at his watch. It's 11:30. Let's get down quickly before the yacht comes back. We might not be so lucky next time. If they came back under sail, we shouldn't hear them. I wonder why they didn't last time. There's more than enough wind, he frowned. Oh, never mind, Barney said. Let's go and find Gummery, round to the back again. The boy might still be watching the front. No, we shall have to go the front way. Gummery might be coming up. I've got a feeling we haven't much time left. We shall just have to risk getting caught. Come on. And that's the end of Chapter 10.